So I'm going to teach you how I trained my horse to go bridleless. This is Milo. I got him from the SPCA as a 2-year-old and broke him myself at 3, and he's 4 now. So this is just the techniques that I used for him that worked for him personally, and it might not work for your horse or every horse, so just use common sense and be safe. And the better relationship you have with your horse, the easier it will be, because they have to trust you and get confidence from you without getting confidence just from the bridle and regular aids. So, or they have to be super well schooled to the point where they can just do it without that. So just use common sense, and it doesn't work for every horse. Some horses aren't solid enough or trustworthy enough to do it, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. Not every horse can do it. Okay, so for step 1, I would recommend that your horse can be ridden in a halter easily, or in a side pull or some other form of bitless. If they still run around like a freight train and need a big bit and are heavy in the hand and hard to control, then they're probably going to take off with you bridleless and won't behave themselves. So ride in a halter first and get them going well in a halter, and stopping well bitless, or work your way down if you're in a heavier bit to light snaffle and then go bitless and go from there. Okay, so before you start riding without a bridle, you need to be comfortable riding in just a halter or a side pull. I could ride him probably anywhere in the halter and know that I could get control of him if he took off or something. So I'm pretty comfortable riding him in a halter. So you need to get that with your horses. Okay, so for that, I was riding him in a loose rein with no contact, and you could see that he wasn't trying to speed up, wasn't trying to get away from me or anything, and that's what you want, because you're giving away your control when you take off the bridle and only have the neck rope. So you cannot rely on contact for control, so you need to start getting used to riding the loose rein and not having that to hold your horse together and to keep them from running off with you, which is probably a lot easier for Western riders to do. I think English riders probably have a harder time. I'm talking. Like, seriously.
His face is cute though, so I was just getting his face too.
I think English riders probably have a harder time doing this than Western riders, because we don't do so much off of our seat and neck reining and minimal contact like a lot of Western riders do, specifically the reining riders. But yeah, so you'll want that. Okay, so step 2 is that you want to develop a good stop without needing to touch the reins at all. This is like the most important step, because even if you can't steer, you want to be able to stop. So develop a good stop without touching the reins, so you'll need to use your seat and teach them how to do that. So that's a longer process. And it takes time. And then just also to add a side note, I ride him in a saddle because he doesn't like being ridden bareback because of the rubbing on his skin. So you just kind of have to follow your horse's personal preferences, and when you're teaching them, I'd never ride them bareback because it's just adding in an extra thing that's dangerous. So yeah, develop a good stop. And to do that, I will do another clip showing you what I've done with him. I can bring him down from a canter to a trot to whatever without the bridle. He doesn't always stop square, but I can slow him down and change gaits at will without needing to use contact on the reins. So that's what you want. Even if they don't necessarily go where you want them to steering wise, that's something you can build upon, but taking the bridle off when you can't stop them is super dangerous. Okay, so for step 3, this isn't necessarily necessary, but it'll help you. with fine-tuning your aids and being able to properly steer them is teaching your horse to neck rein or to respond to neck pressure, because you can use the neck rope to neck rein, and then even when you remove the rope, you can use your hands to put in neck pressure as needed if you're riding without a rope when you get to that point. So I think that's important, and I'll kind of slowly cover the base for that, but I'm not going to go fully into that because there's lots of videos on neck reining that you can look at, and I don't want this video to be that long. So neck rein, neck rope. Okay, so next you need them to learn how to neck rein or respond to pressure on their neck, which he was already doing when I was steering, so I'll show you. He's had a day off, so very excited. Okay, so as you can see, I was able to steer him with minimal contact and still have him go where I wanted to. I was also using leg along with the neck reining, but yeah, as you can see, that's what I was doing. Now for the next step, which is teaching them to move off of your leg and go around with minimal neck commands, because your leg is really the basis of your control. I'm going to take his halter off and just ride him with the neck rope, but if you're learning, I'd always leave the halter on just as your emergency brake. So, but I already kind of know what he's like. And he's had a day off, so he's being a little silly, but he never tries to run off with me. See, he's just impatient. He never tries to run off with me, and the flies are biting him. So I'm not really worried about that, so I'm just going to take it off. Okay. The next step is step 4, and it's just fine-tuning the leg aids so that you can steer them easily with your legs and without relying on touching their face. And that'll just come with work and training and your regular flat work and dressage work. So yeah, just fine-tune their leg aids, get them leg yielding and doing stuff. Sorry, he's bored, so. But yeah, so fine-tune the leg aids and get them moving off your leg easily and responding to leg, and get them to the point where you can steer them without needing to touch the bridle. Step 5 is optional, but it's a good idea even just for regular riding, is teaching voice commands, so that if they decide to try and take off on you or aren't listening, you can use a voice command as an added aid to help it. Stop it, he's ready to go. He's like, why are we standing? But yeah, so voice commands are a good idea if your horse doesn't already know them. Okay, so this is step 5 and it's optional. Most people will have already taught their horse this. It's just responding to voice commands. I only use voice commands sometimes when I'm riding, like he's getting really hot or excited, I'll use them. So I'm not going to film anything to show you this because it's pretty basic, just like whoa and walk and just calm voice commands to get them to respond to, and like clucking, kissing, etc. I'll cluck and kiss to him for the upwards transition sometimes, but I try not to use them as much for him because for dressage tests they don't want you to, so he needs to get used to just responding to silent commands. So those are the steps that I used, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's time consuming to teach because this could be something that you teach over the course of like a year to completely fine tune it. Like I've been working on this types of things with him for a year since I started him last year when he was 3. So he's been learning it for a while, and only now has he really gotten to the point where I can get on him and actually know that I can have control without the bridle even when he's had time off. Okay. Step 6 is, now that you're ready to ride bridleless, you can start practicing with just the neck rope. I'd leave the halter and reins on the first couple times until you're sure they're not going to do anything. And then just fine tune it from there, and then take off the reins maybe so that you don't rely on them for one time, and then leave the halter on so that you have an emergency brake if you need. And then from there I'd move to taking off the halter just for safety, and then once you're really comfortable with it, then if your horse is okay with going bareback, you can go completely tackless, but I wouldn't do it until you're certain that they'll be okay with it. So Western riders will probably have a way easier time teaching this because their horses are already trained to neck rein, and especially with reining horses, they're trained to respond off the seat pretty well, so you'll probably have an easier time doing this than with English riders because we're taught to ride with contact constantly, and then we learn to rely on the contact. So giving it up can be scary, and it can also be hard for the horse to not kind of run off with you. It's not really in his nature to bolt, so he was a lot easier to teach because when he gets excited, he kind of stays in his own space and like bucks or shakes his head around like a maniac, but in his own space. So I'm not usually worried about him doing that because I know he'll stay contained in the area I want him rather than taking off and running around like a crazed idiot. If he decides that he doesn't want to listen, he'll just buck in his own space. So yeah, I'll show you what he can do. We've gotten to the point where we don't need the neck rope all the time. So I'll show you that. And then best of luck, and let me know how it goes with teaching your own horses.
I got that on film.
You did?
What the heck? Is it the chickens?
The chickens!
He's trying to attack the chickens? Oh my gosh.
They're not even in the arena.
But they're outside that gate. Yeah, here he goes again. Just watch his bucking corner. Oh, good boy.
he needed to get some of his energy out because he's had a day off and then the weather got cold all of a sudden, and he's really sensitive to weather, so he's being pretty silly today, but as you can see, he doesn't try to take off on me, and even when I'm trying to push him forward to go faster, that's about as fast as he wants to go. So he's a lot easier because I don't have to worry about bolting, and like the bucking and hopping around type stuff doesn't really scare me. So yeah, he doesn't bother me, but I'll include those clips just to show you that he's not always perfect, because a lot of people think he's this perfect, sweet little baby when I do this type of stuff with him, and he's really a huge brat, and he likes to play constantly. He gets distracted easily. So even without the bridle or with the neck rope on, when I take the neck rope off, I sometimes have to use my hands to turn his head because he'll be too busy looking outside of the arena too busy looking at the side of the arena so that he'll turn his body when I ask him with my leg, but then his head won't turn. So, and then he'll like almost run into the fence. So he's not perfect, but he's pretty cool for a 4-year-old, and I like him, and he's yawning now. So he's abnormally good for his age, and I've never thought that I'd have a horse that I could ride without the neck rope. I've had 3 horses, including him, be able to go with the neck rope now, but, okay, we're leaving. But I'll see people riding, like I used to see people riding without the neck rope, and I'd be like, wow, they're crazy. So now that I'm able to do that, it's pretty cool. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that it was helpful.
He's gonna go, hang on, he's gonna go get it.
I know, can you film my face?
Should I just let it film? They want to see him pick it up.
Okay.
And then you can talk some more. Hang on. Get it, Milo.
That one.
Can I just let him do this first?
Yeah.
Because people might want to see it.
Is he gonna get it though?
He's trying.
Oh,
good job.
Okay, so I hope that was helpful. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of stuff, but it is time consuming to teach, especially the stopping and being able to trust your horse to respond to you without the contact on their face. So I hope that was helpful, and if you have any questions, obviously you can ask me in the comments or send me a message on my Instagram or something, and I'll try my best to help you out. Yeah, and just as another disclaimer, like, be safe, wear your helmet, have a safety brake like a halter with reins along with the neck rope the first few times, and this might not work for every horse, so if it doesn't work for yours, don't be discouraged. There will be horses that you can do it with, or it might take years for your horse to get to that point. The first horse that I taught to go bridleless, I couldn't get him to go bridleless until he was like 15 because he was a bolter. And even then I could never take the neck rope off. And I'd never be able to trust him outside of the arena, whereas I can take Milo hacking around the property in a neck rope. But yeah, so don't be discouraged if you can't do it. Be safe. This might not work for every horse. This is just what I've done with my horse. So if it doesn't work for yours, you might need to change your style, or it might just be that your horse won't personally work well with this, or it might take years for them to settle down to the point where they can. So I hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and just let me know what you think. Thank you.
And when you first started teaching him, you always had someone here with you when you were doing it, so that you were never really alone in the ring with him when you were schooling him to do this.
And to add as another thing, if you don't own the horse, make sure you ask permission before doing this with them, because it's not your place to just start changing equipment with someone else's horse. So yeah, ask your trainer or ask whoever you lease from about it. Milo belongs to me, so I can do whatever I... Oh, he's gonna go get it.
Just threw it.
Milo belongs to me, so I can do whatever I want with him. So yeah, just make sure you ask, and if you're a minor, ask your parents if it's okay. Make sure you have someone around when you're riding, and be safe. Thank you for watching, and please let me know what you think. Okay, here, I'll take it. So Milo's my 4-year-old that I broke myself as a 3-year-old, and we got him from the SPCA. He was abused and severely neglected. If you check out my Instagram, you can see all of his transformation photos and more about him. I'll put the links down in my bio, in the caption, or whatever the frack you call it. He's pretty special, and I'm really happy that I'm able to do this with him. And just to reiterate what I've said multiple times, please be safe when doing this, and realize that this is just what I've personally used. This isn't a foolproof guide to get your horse to go bridleless or anything like that. So yeah, check the links down below if you want to see more with him and more that I post about him, or ask me any questions, and let me know what you guys think, because I like hearing feedback from you in the comments. And
He's gonna whack himself in the head.
Yeah, and yeah, as you can see, he's just filled with personality. He's really silly, and I hope you enjoyed this video.